explain to us. So please stick around. We will be right back. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thank you so much for joining once again, Riki.
Hello, ohayou gozaimasu.
And Riki has inspired me to embrace beautiful things in my house. So I am trying to wear a kimono, which I found in the costume box during October's talk about Halloween. So that was a lucky find. And now I wear it around my house during autumn, and it makes me feel more elegant as I go about my day. So I have you to thank for that. Thank you so much.
You look wonderful. I flattered you very well. Lovely
Thank
color.
you. And before we started, you gave me some advice that if I took it to a kimono shop, they would be able to make it a little bit bigger so it would actually fit me.
That's right. I mean, kimono are nice because instead of just cutting them, when you sew them, you fold the excess material into the sleeve. This is
Oh,
what's normally done, regular practice. So most kimono can be, you can take out the seams and then you can stretch them out maybe a good 5, 6 centimeters, depending on what it is. And even if there's not enough material in there, you can add more material over here or on the sides or in the back, around the waist. So any kimono can be extended to your size, no matter how big or small it is.
wonderful. Yeah, I might look into that because I love this color. And I think it's the cosmos. And now, as I do my walks during the day, I see loads of beautiful cosmos flowers. So it's a nice theme. What are you wearing today? Can
Oh,
you describe your beautiful kimono?
ooh. Well, this is a tsumugi, and so a tsumugi kimono is used for every day. So if you can get a little bit dirty or you can do housework, and if you're going to wear a kimono like this because it's tougher than a regular kimono, it's an awase, which means it's good for this particular season. You have an extra layer on the inside over here, and it's made of silk, so it's just so warm. So I have this, and then I have the inside of the awase, and then I'm also wearing a nagajuban, and the nagajuban on the inside also has 2 layers. So it's really quite warm compared to what you get in the summer kimono or a yukata.
Wow, beautiful. And of course, you often share this kind of wonderful insights and information on your Twitter feed, but you've also started a website on Wixie so people can see your beautiful photos there as well, linked from your Twitter page as
Thank
well.
you very much. Yes, I only did that because, well, for work, because they asked me like, well, where do we get in contact with you? And it was until now Japan generally you carry around these cards. Oh, I could show you actually. I actually have one here. But we have the meishi, and everyone carries around their meishi, and it's kind of like a British calling card from like Victorian era and something like that. It's exactly the same thing. So you have your name and all that information on here when you give this every time you meet someone. But these days, because of coronavirus, of course, you don't see people in person as much as you used to. And people don't tend to carry around meishi as much as they used to. It's not a significant difference, but it's enough for people to say, okay, well, where can I get in contact with you? And it's hard to have too many, entrances. You have to find something which you can just hand to everybody. So there it is.
Yeah. I love your November in Japan page that you shared about autumn foliage, the different kinds of holidays that we have, like Bunka-no-hi, Culture Day, 753 Day, when children go to the shrine or temple, right? I think shrines,
So cute.
maybe. So cute.
It's
And
shrines.
the 23rd, Ni Namesai, Japanese Thanksgiving.
It's very interesting to go to various countries and see how certain holidays they kind of coincide with other holidays in other countries too. So Ni Namesai is not a copy of Thanksgiving, for even though it kind of follows around the same time. It used to be it started out as a Shinto kind of ceremony. So the emperor would go to a shrine and do something important and magical and whatever you call it in traditional in the shrine. But on the outside of that, you have all these people with parties and festivals and you know the typical matsuri kind of thing, except that you would have a lot more food involved. So instead of having everyone carrying an omikoshi around and going from place to place, they would gather and just share whatever they made during that season. So if you'd go to someone's house, they'll have apples or they'll have grapes or they'll have maybe they'll have duck, for example, fowl. Or I think the other day I went to a party and we had wild boar. So it's not exactly Thanksgiving because you don't go and see your family the same way you would in the United States, for example. But it does coincide with that same timing. And so you can assume it's the Japanese Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and it was interesting talking about wild boar. Of course, is a more sustainable meat to eat in Japan. Wild meats, and there's too many boar, lack of predators. So a lot of the people I've interviewed in the series actually, they take the wild boar meat from hunters in the area who wouldn't eat it. And then they're eating it and making use of it. So, of course, instead of making it go to waste, it's nice to see. Well, I'm a vegan, I wouldn't eat it, but if you eat meat, it's definitely a more sustainable choice. And you said it was quite delicious at that place?
Oh, it is. It is. It's like it's like a pork, except that it's tougher, a little bit more gamey. So you won't have that strange gamey flavor to it so much as you'll have this. In Japanese, they call it hagotai, but the feeling of something when you bite into it is called hagotai. So something like texture, I suppose. But it has a very nice hagotai, and it has just the same amount of fat, just like bacon would have or something like that. So it's quite nice. It really
Oh,
is.
good. Yeah, so I'm happy if I see people eating it because instead of just letting it go to waste, it's much better to, use it and make a business out of it. Why not? I saw your beautiful masks you and your husband are wearing while you're at the restaurant, and those are gorgeous. You always have gorgeous masks that you wear.
My friends over in Kyoto, I know a whole bunch of kimono makers, and this one was made by Kato Kimono. They make kimono. She makes kimono specifically for men. So most of the kimono that my husband wears, they're from Kato Kimono. But she sent this to me kind of as a gift, and there until now, I mean, there's lots of different kinds of masks and materials for masks. I just love this one because it's very, very soft. It's like feathers on the inside. The gauze is just so very light, and of course, this is very high quality silk. So it feels like there's almost like nothing on you, and yet at the same time, it's like a gentle kind of like a well, it's a shield, but in the kindest way. So I just love this technology.
Yeah,
Pretty
it's
lovely.
beautiful. And I think we'll be wearing masks for at least a few more months going forward. So it's nice to have a variety of beautiful masks that you always match really beautifully with your kimono that you're wearing.
Oh, just a reminder, if you really like one of your kimono, you can bring those into kimono makers and places like that, and they can use the material and what's left over of the material. Like when you get something remade or reshaped, you usually have a little bit left over. So you can give that to them to make tabi. You can make all sorts of like kerchiefs and things like that. I mean, I used one of my old summer kimono to make a summer umbrella. So you can use these for all sorts of different ways. Kimono are just amazingly versatile.
Wow, wonderful. You also had a page explaining Bunka-no-hi.
Mm. Oh yeah, Bunka-no-hi. I just love Bunka-no-hi because this was originally the Meiji Emperor's birthday. So I'm happy to say this because there are no Scorpio interesting people ever. And so finally, there's another Scorpio. I'm so happy about that. But but so his birthday was on the third, and in celebration, they would have shows as opposed to just the standard festivals. So you would have music shows or performances, or you'll have some recitations, or if you go to universities, they would have lectures and things like that. Orators would be speaking on Bunka-no-hi. And the direct translation for this is Culture Day, of course. I took a little bit of a break after he died, but then they reinstated it as a national holiday. So after World War II, of course, they changed it from Emperor's birthday to just to Culture Day. But the traditions are exactly the same. So they still have orators and they still have lectures. And if you go to a science museum, they'll have something special going on for both kids and adults. So it's a little bit more mature of a festival for you to enjoy the entertainment in general. So you should really take advantage of that, and at least next year when it starts again on the 3rd.
Yeah, so that was at the beginning of November, Bunka-no-hi national holiday.
Yeah.
So that's a good transition into your watch out for dry weather. I think
Oh,
November is a time when it is very dry and we need lotions.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you should watch out for.
Oh, well, every year around this time or anytime that it starts to get really dry, the Shobo the fire department, will issue warnings for dry weather. And you'll get pamphlets and everything in the mail, that sort of thing, that they'll go from house to house and put them in there. But most importantly, it is supposed to be, you have to be careful about for fires. So you shouldn't be using open flame as much. You should be sure that your plugs, this is something that a lot of people forget, but their plugs, dust can get in between the plug and the actual, where you plug it in. I'm not quite sure what that's called. But you want to make sure the dust doesn't spark a fire. You have to make sure you have your papers in a nice, safe location. But in addition to that, on a more practical level, for those of us who don't encounter fire on a daily basis, which would be good, we do have to drink a lot more water than we're used to. So this time, people will be more prone to headaches. It's easier to catch a cold. You're going to have a sore throat more often than not. Be very dry. Wake up in the morning and your eyes are all dry and crusty and awful and things like that. That's because of the lack of moisture in the air. So drink more water, and then as you also should be carrying around more lotions. I mean, I use this one right now, but there's just it's from my dermatologist, so it's one of those things. But just keep on putting on the lotion constantly, and especially now that we have to wash our hands every time we go in or out of the house or meet someone, you have to wash your hands. So you have to be even more kinder to your skin than usual, I think, right now.
Yeah. And I think I've been asked recently, do I recommend any moisturizers? And I think this will segue nicely into your fragrances that you were given for your birthday. But I have just at the local drugstore, I have found some tins of
Oh,
moisturizer, and it is made in Japan. So it might be an international company, but made in Japan, and you can get the tins, so it's easier to recycle. Now, you were given some beautiful fragrances, which also came in tins. Can you tell us about it?
oh yes. Let's see. There was two that I got. One of them was from is J Sense, and this one was a gift from my husband. And in Japan, when they're talking about kosei, kosei, perfume, when you're trying to put on perfume, they're kind of picky about scents over here because the thought behind it is that the scent can't interfere with whatever food you'll be eating. So that's where the concept comes from. So if you go to somewhere like Gion or any place where they have geisha, for example, geisha, they wear perfumes too. But what they wear is this kind of a nudie perfume. So this kind of a like a creamed perfume, and they're usually the scents of hinoki or byakudan, which is sandalwood, or they'll be an earthy scent, or maybe they'll have something like maybe peach, or if there is any floral scent, it's very, very delicate. And they only take a little bit on their finger and they put it right behind their ear. And this is just the thing that they do. This is just what they're taught to do. I learned this from my grandmother, who was also a Kagurasaka geisha. So she we take it just a little bit, and that's all you do, nothing else. And anything more than that may possibly interfere if you are brought over to sushi, for example, where the scent is very delicate. You really shouldn't even smoke in those places. I mean, there's most of them you can't smoke anymore anyway. But if you find one that you can smoke, it's not a good idea. Um, and that's why the Western perfumes, I'm not saying that they're too strong, but there are some certain guys out there who will put a little bit too much Axe body spray on, and you can kind of tell, you know. So that's not as common over here. You're not going to find a lot of that over here in Japan. Scents in general, they're much more natural and kind of woody than they are over in the States, at least from my experience. So you won't go to like Bath and Body Works and get these like bombs of like floral, fruity kind of explosions of scent. Over here, you'll get something like a green tea or aloe or wood or these ones over here, for example. This one is an earth scent, and I have a light peachy kind of a scent, and then there is a floral scent. So I don't remember what it's called in English. I apologize, but the scents are just so small. Just a little bit is all you need. You can kind of carry them around too. And this is also another one that's very popular in Japan. There is the L'Occitane, and L'Occitane has the Vervain. And I don't know if you've ever tried Vervain before. It's one of the more popular scents. But Vervain, it's also one of those really fresh, very delicate scents. So this is really popular. So I'll be sitting on the train or something, and then I'll get this waft of Vervain, and it's from the person next to me who's putting some cream on their hands or something. It's just so popular. But I got this wonderful set for my birthday too. So thank goodness. It's my favorite scent ever. So if I run out, I'll just go and buy some more. I'm just obsessed with this particular scent.
Yeah, and I like how even at L'Occitane, very few of the products are in plastic. That
Oh yeah,
you'll often find the paper or the tins. I really
yeah,
like this trend in beauty products.
yep. It's beautiful. And you know, every once in a while, if you're so lucky, then you'll have a grandmother. You'll have like a great grandmother's house. Some people do. I did when I was growing up. So I used to go and visit my great grandmother's house, which is still in the family over in Chicago. But um, you have her old cosmetics there. What's interesting about great grandmother's old cosmetics is that they're not in plastic. They're always either in glass or in metal, these tin things, and all these potions and lotions and stuff, which I have no idea what it's in there, but it all smells like rose. And you look in there, it's like, ooh, goop. And you're like, oh, more goop. And it's like 100-year-old goop, which is just amazing to be able to see this in front of you. It's
I
all none of
remember
it.
I remember that too. Like my grandmother's vanity area where she had a mirror and she had her makeup and beauty supplies in front, and there were glass baubles and tins and wooden boxes, and we need
Yeah.
to get back to that. It's so glamorous and beautiful. I love it.
It is. It is. I mean, plastic bottles, they're not fun. It's like, you use it, you throw it away. It's not pretty like it used to be.
That's right. And you also introduced some beautiful smelling incense. Do you use incense when you do tea ceremony?
Yes, but this isn't tea ceremony incense. This is everyday incense. This is different than the sandalwood that you'll usually get for, because they do have family shrines at home for your ancestors, the ancestral shrines kind of thing. But this is not that kind. This is just stick incense for everyday use. Um, I will always like use one in the vestibule every morning while I clean, just to kind of like refresh the air and wake the house up in a sense. The kind of stuff that you use for tea ceremony, I don't have a picture of it up, but it's in these little chunks of wood. That's what it is. Little tiny like square chunks of wood. And what you do is you put them on top of the coals inside of the, we have this little doll where you Goodness gracious, how do I explain this in English? We have a kind of a dugout place inside of the tea room on which you put your hot water pot and kind of, and underneath there you're having coals in there which you heat them over in the kitchen, and then you like bring them over to the tea ceremony room. On top of that is where you put the incense, and there's many different scents for it, but just one little piece of wood that you kind of stick in there and it kind of glows and makes everything smell nice.
Yeah, I've got
Oh,
your pictures of the sunken ryo. Is it called do?
no, no,
Do.
R-O.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
tell us about the process of changing to that style for tea ceremony.
Well, I just moved to this new house, and so we had what is called the doguchi, which means that there's a cut in the floor beneath the tatami. So if you lift up the tatami, it's always very movable. So these aren't like nailed down or anything, but you can lift them up, and beneath it, you're usually going to get wood. And so there's a square portion of just beneath the tatami, which if you lift it up, you can put in a box which is insulated, and then inside there you put another metal box, which is for the sake of the fire, of course. And there's no like actual flames burning or anything like that, but it's just the coal that you're going to put in. And on top of there, you have to put ash, and then you put in this kind of metal circle like this, which inside of the ash, and on there you cover up the base of the circle in the ashes. So you give yourself a base and a place where you're supposed to put all the coals. You put the coals in the middle of the circle over there, and on top of that you put the iron pot. And this happens in November every year. It's called kairo. So we open the door is kairo, and it's considered the new year for tea. So as a result of opening up your tatami and putting in the dough, all of your friends and your tea ceremony, some people have tea ceremonies. Some people will do, if their students will come in, everyone will come and visit just to see the dough. And you put in some nice incense over there and give everyone nice sweets. And you also have to present them. It depends on the system that you're working with, but you give them some kind of food. And so what I'm doing over at my house is I'm giving them so mochi. So you put the mochi on there instead. And so you have these little bowls of mochi and sweets and everything. And they give you a present in return. The present is almost always something sweet, some kind of a sweet. So I'll get more sweets, which is great because then more people are going to come anyway. I have to give them sweets. So you kind of pass them around, but it's a big event. And also all the utensils that you use, which are made out of something perishable, like the chasen, for example, the whisk that you use for the tea. That's when you have to buy new ones. It's during that time period, and you use new chashaku, new water scoops and things like that, tea scoops. So it's a very special time of year.
I didn't realize that November is such an interesting and an important time of year for a tea ceremony. That's
It
wonderful.
is.
So I'm showing also you were explaining about the enclove in English, kokonoma, is it? And
Yes, yes.
the hanging.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the tokonoma. This is an essential part of many Japanese rooms, not just tea rooms, but the tokonoma is where it's it's a little bit of extra space. It's what it is. You're not supposed to fill it with too many things, but generally you put some flowers, you put a hanging wall scroll, and you might put something like an art piece to display. So currently in the tokonoma we have some flowers, and I think I just changed my wall scroll actually, but it has to be a very seasonal wall scroll. There are year-round things too, so if you don't want to buy one for every single month or so, then there are ways to get around that. So, but you'll also notice in this particular photograph there's the chatsubo, and tea originally, or in many places it still is, it's carried in these big ceramic pots. If you go into some older shops and places like that. Hold on one second. Sorry, husband. He's like, oh, there's voices here. But yeah, if you go in some of the old traditional shops, maybe in downtown or older areas, you'll find a lot of these pots which are going to be lining the walls. And you'll notice that it's tied with this red knot. Well, the purpose of the red knot is to protect from poison. So way back during the Edo period and before that, daimyo and important people like that would often be assassinated for, war kind of reasons. So they would have these very, very complicated knots that would be used to show that no one had opened the top of the chatsubo. And so it's during this time of year, since it is new tea year. So the new tea comes in the chatsubo, so it comes with one of those complicated knots. And it's kind of fun because that's one of the things you have to learn in tea is how to tie those things. It's quite nice. I'll show you a video of it later on at some point. I have to take a video, I suppose.
I've never heard of that. That's a wonderful story. And you have so many pictures this time of year of your beautiful tea and the wagashi and gorgeous.
Well, there's each and every tea ceremony is different, so it's fun to kind of see how the light hits each one of the items. So I enjoy taking photographs of it, so I like to share those.
Yeah. And your Ikebana in the enclave, you shared about that it has some wild flowers for autumn. Beautiful.
Yes, the nanaksa.
Mm-hmm.
There's nanaksa for autumn and there's nanaksa for spring. I'm going to have to put down a list of those things eventually, but the nanaksa are just the traditional flowers you're going to find in any part of the country, and so those are used kind of inclusively. So anyone can use them. That's kind of the thought behind it. There is some meaning to each and every one of them, but I don't remember what I put in there. I think Fujibakama maybe, and but what I really like about the flowers in general for tea ceremony as opposed to regular flowers is that the tea ceremony flowers are not supposed to be something special. So you don't go out and buy them. You don't go and find the perfect rose or anything like that. You go around your corner over to like the park, and whatever you find at the park, that's your tea flower. So even if you're living in Germany or in America or wherever it is, your tea flower shouldn't be, oh, well, this is this time of year and therefore you have to use this particular Japanese flower. It's specifically designed so that it's not supposed to be like that. That's the point of the tea ceremony. So you have to have something which anyone can enjoy, and anyone can see this on their average daily walk over to the park. So if you're going to the park, do not pick next door neighbor's roses. You don't have to worry about that. Just go and get a stalk of grass and get a piece of leaf, which is turned colors. So right now you're going to find a lot of small color change leaves, which are going to be part of bouquets right now. And that's good enough. So that's the whole point of it, is to enjoy the current season the way you enjoy it naturally right now, wherever you are.
I love that. I love that idea. And this kind of like dry, how do you describe it? Like a fern at the top. I see this lining all of the riverbanks right now. And it's such a beautiful, I'm sure some people just hate it as a weed, but it is just looking at it next to the river. It is so beautiful. All of these that move with the wind and everything. I like it.
It's Suzuki. They're perfectly acceptable as a tea flower, by the way. So you'll
Nice.
find that here and there. So do enjoy it.
And another really cute thing, of course, we have to introduce is your kitty-kotatsu.
Oh. Okay,
It's so cute.
Not in the room right now.
Look at that little face. So is it really just a special heated table just for Kitty?
Well, this particular one is unique. I'll have to give you a link to this at some point, but last year during winter, a mikan maker. There's big mikan and there's little baby mikan, right? The big mikan they sell a little bit better than the little ones. So, but they're just as sweet. And so one of the little mikan farmers created this system where if you buy a box of mikan, you'll get with it a cat kotatsu. And so you'll have this thick piece of cardboard, and then four little poles you stick into it, also made of cardboard. And it comes with the mikan. Right? So, and I ordered this, and I got out this wonderful little kotatsu. And then on the top, there's another piece of cardboard, just like a regular kotatsu would have. Like it's kind of like double plated. And I used my cat's one of his little one of his blankets, and he just loved it. The second he saw it, he's like, oh, "That's mine!" so, so I do have a heater in there, but it's the one of those cat or pet heaters that you'll get over like at any pet shop or anything like that. One of those like they're square kind of little things like this. I put that underneath it instead, and then put on top of there another little blanket. So he kind of squeezes in between the hot plate for animals, and the top of the kotatsu. He just knows that it's made for him. So he'll just crawl inside of there and then poke his head out just because he wants to see what's going on in the world. But such a happy kitty.
That is so gorgeous. And I've seen people have the kotatsu on all day in the house for winter for their pets, dogs, cats. I've seen rabbits under kotatsu. So if you keep it on low, the pets do love it, and then you don't have to heat the whole house. There's very few houses in Japan which have central heating.
Yeah.
Most of us live by heating room to room, right? So the
Yeah.
kotatsu is a great life send. Yeah, helps a lot.
Oh
Um,
yes.
I I just talked to Karen Hill Anton the other day, and she first moved into Japan many years ago in the deep countryside, and
Oh.
they had a kotatsu in the center of the house. And at first, she thought we don't need that, and then it just became the only place they wanted to be in the house, especially in the old drafty houses, right? It's wonderful. Let's talk about your new novella. I'm very excited. So I
Oh.
read your
Yeah.
first one, Dragon Pond, and this is a new
Yeah.
one. Tell us about it.
Okay. Well, let's see. Well, this particular novella is a little bit different than usual because this was designed as a movie. I had a movie script, which was I started, I think it was 2006 or 2007, that I wrote a movie script, and well, I wrote the concept, and then over the next few years, it kind of developed little by little into kind of a script. And this was actually picked up and filmed during just recently. So I just filmed this already as a movie. And but the thing is of course, when you film something here in Japan, it's a very limited budget, so it's very unlikely you're going to get a lot of money to do it. So whatever was filmed, I had to cut a lot of the story, and of course, you can't really show a person's inner turmoil and things like that. So what I did was I wrote this novella almost like as a summary of what I really wanted to say during the movie. So it was my original script, but the original script, of course, was in Japanese. So when I was writing this as a book, I decided I'm just going to write it in English because, of course, that's easier for me. And that's also one of the points of the movie is you want to have something which is kind of transcends language a little bit. So when this movie is released, in certain locations are going to release it with subtitles. So it will be also available in English. But but putting all that kind of backstory aside, this particular novella is kind of a critique of the film industry. So it's not from the perspective of a filmmaker, which is me. It's a perspective of an actor. So the story is that of an actor in his early 30s who doesn't see any future for himself. But the age of his 20s, he has a lot of pride. I mean, you have to have a lot of pride to be an actor in the first place, but he had a little bit too much self confidence, and so he kind of put himself up on his pedestal, and then he cut himself off from the rest of the world as a result, because he wanted to make it look like he was going up in the world, and he stopped talking to people like he should have. And a person, they need communication. I mean, for as people like to call themselves introverts, and I'm an introvert, and lots of people are introverts. They don't want to be around too many people. But people, even if there are introverts, they really do need communication. They need to get to know not just a person as an acquaintance, but they need more friends. And so in our daily lives, we have a tendency to go and meet someone, we'll say hello, we'll talk to them for whatever business that we have to do with them, but we don't really know who they are. And we don't spend a lot of time speaking to them. And maybe we'll meet them at a party, we'll exchange phone numbers or line messages or something, but then you never talk to them again. And then there's this wonderfully awful phrase in Japanese, which is kondo. And so when you'll meet someone and you'll say, oh, let's meet up again, kondo. In kondo, it doesn't translate perfectly into English, but it means sometime or next time. So yeah, let's have a drink next time. But next time never really comes about. And so what happens is you'll have hundreds and hundreds of phone numbers in your phone of people that you don't know, that you've met once, you don't really know where you met them, but you don't want to delete them just in case the call comes sometime, and you're kind of stuck in this conundrum. So the concept of the story is this guy who has isolated himself and put himself on a pedestal goes through his mobile phone and he calls for the sake of meeting every single person in his phone book, just so that he can figure out, well, who are these people? And so through doing this, he kind of revitalizes all the connections that he used to have, and then he gets his life back on track. So it is a happy story ultimately, but it's supposed to be a critique of both the transient nature of the film industry and also our habit of not really getting to know a person once we've met them. So that's what I kind of hope to do with this book.
Yeah, I love that concept. That's a really interesting concept. And I really enjoyed your last novella about Dragon Pond and the girl moving out to the Inaka and having experience there. And I think your insight as a movie director and seeing so many of these scripts and making some of them yourself, it translates so beautifully into these short novellas. So I can't wait to read it. And I hope you continue making more. Good job.
Thank you very much. Well, we have the coronavirus thing going on right now, so you have to use your time and do something. And if I'm not going to be on set, I have to write something or I'll go nuts.
Yeah, well, good for you, putting your time to good use. Let's talk a little bit about your beautiful kimonos. I have some gorgeous pictures here. This one, you're next to a Christmas tree, so maybe a winter kimono. Gorgeous.
Um, Picture hasn't popped up.
Not yet.
But not yet. But I think I know the one you're talking about. Yeah, that's an awase kimono. It's also a tsumugi, so it's a daily use one. We have it's kind of an off-white. Yes, it's supposed to be off-white and blue, but you can barely tell that with this, and you have to get up really close. One of the nice things about tsumugi material is that or Japanese patterns in general, they don't tend to be very big. So you will see like furisode and young people's kimonos with these big flowers on them, but they're actually kind of rare, and those aren't used on an everyday basis. What you'll get for everyday basis is a pattern which is so gentle, so komakai, so very delicate, that you have to kind of look and see very closely in order to actually see what's on the sleeve and what's on the material. So this is one of those where it has these little wave patterns on there. But from a distance, it just kind of looks like a gentle gray. But yeah, it's an everyday kimono.
It's beautiful. And I saw your hint that it's perfectly okay to wear a men's obi with your kimono, and you show a beautiful, simple, like white and gold obi there.
Oh yes. Oh, this is any. This is actually it's all off white, but it looks kind of gold because of the shadows, because it's textured in these ways. You have all these crests on them. But yeah, especially during the summer, and even with tsumugi, for example, because tsumugi, think of it like the jeans of kimono. So you can wear this every day. So for everyday kind of jean kind of kimono, you can wear any kind of obi you want. I mean, if you don't want to wear something which is too fancy, of course, because it doesn't really match jeans, of course. But think of it in that term. But you can wear these really thin obis. You can wear the hanhaba obi. You can wear a men's obi. You can kind of angle it if you want a little bit more width over here on the side. You can angle it down if you want to. There's so many ways to wear a kimono because you'll notice in the red one, which you've just put up on screen over here, the width of the obi is quite large, and so it covers up most of the middle part over here. But you could make that thinner if you wanted to, or if you have like, it's not just for thin people though too. So if you have like a little bit of a gut, you can angle the obi forward so that the front comes down in this like delicate slope, and that's another way to make it flattering. So any kind of body type can use the kimono. It's just a matter of how you play with the obi and the eri, the collar over here, and how you stretch out the sleeves, and what kind of a combination you make, which suits you best.
Yeah, beautiful. And you said this black and red kimono that we're looking at on the side, you wore to calligraphy class, Shodo class. You were
Yeah.
get worried about the ink.
Well, I haven't actually spilled ink on a kimono yet. But yeah, kimono on the other hand, the one thing that is kind of difficult about them is that they're difficult to wash. So you either have to turn them into someone a specialist, or if it's just a little bitty kind of a thing, then you take benzene, and so you kind of dab it with benzene to get rid of it. Water will take care of a lot of it, but you don't throw it in the washing machine unless it's a polyester one, which I don't have too many of those. But these old silk ones, they don't wash very well. So you when I was going to the Shodo class that day, I was kind of worried that he would make me show how I hold everything. So I have a wonderful, absolutely amazing Shodo teacher. I'll have to show you something that he's written before, but he's the teacher to the emperor. So he's absolutely the top class, most wonderful Shodo master in probably in the country. Lovely old guy, 73 years old, and so anyway, so he's very kind. And so when he's teaching me how to use how to write, especially the old Japanese calligraphy, um, there may possibly be a time when I go oops, and then it goes wee, and then the brush goes wee, which hasn't happened yet, but I kind of imagining it happen, and it goes flop. Oh no! And so every time I go to Shodo class, I'm wearing a dark colored kimono, just in case that happens, and I hope it doesn't. But
Yeah. That it sounds very like a good idea. I would be very worried about spilling ink on my beautiful kimono as well. Karen
oh,
Hill Anton actually, she traveled from the countryside 4 hours one way to get to her calligraphy teacher back in the day. Now she
goodness.
doesn't do classes anymore, but she talks about how important the calligraphy was to her Japan experience. Have you found the same thing? Like it's just so meditative, like it's just such a beautiful part of Japanese culture.
Oh yes, you said an interesting word there, the meditative part of it. I think that a lot of Japanese culture really, well, it's going to go back to what I love so much, but tea. And tea, it comes, of course, there's a strong connection with Zen and Taoism and things like that. And the calming of the soul, in a sense. And so one of the things that you do learn in tea is you have to learn how to do shodo too, because if you go to a tea ceremony, of course, you're going to have to write your name. You have an entrance book in the front. You have to write your name, and you're writing in front of all these people, and you have to hold the brush right, and it's really ink, and oh my god. But you also have to write letters to say if you to invite people to tea ceremonies, and then to accept the letter itself. And it's a structure that you're going to have to study. But one of the elements of calligraphy or shodo in general is that you have to have a very calm heart in order to do it. And so one of the things that a wonderful teacher will critique for the various people is that if you don't like calm like in a yoga kind of a sense, you have to calm yourself down and breathe out when you're writing, and it can't be too slow and it can't be too fast. Um, so you have to kind of very much calm yourself when you're writing each and every letter, right? So even if it is kind of like a series of letters or something that's connected, if you do this in one breath, so it's like as you write each one of the phrases. And so you're not writing each and every line, you're writing it as a kind of an exhalation. So it's very much like you said, like a meditative process. And if you're frustrated, or if you're angry, or if you're something, it's going to come out in the letters. You can tell in the way things are being written. I mean, I guess you could do that in English too, but it's fun to go back and see these like letters written by daimyo way back in 300, 500 years ago. And some of them are war letters, and some of them you can tell which ones were dictated. You can tell which ones were written by the very angry person who's writing them, or someone who's in love and trying to make a beautiful message. You can tell by the state of the calligraphy in there. And so that she said that it was something that has to do very much with the soul and how you're feeling at the time when you're writing. It is an important part of Japanese culture, and it does require a little bit of sense.
Wonderful. I love that. Also, in the photo, you're wearing a mask from the same company that you had your Towelkette dyed, which we talked about in a previous episode.
Oh yes, yeah. This mask, it's the same mask that I was wearing over at the first picture with my husband, but not the same mask, but the same maker. It's Kato Kimono over in Kyoto, which makes men's kimono. This was an experiment. Yeah, this was an experiment. So I'm very, very picky about all the things in my house. Not too picky, but try to be picky. Right? If you're going to spend 1/3 of your day in a location, you want it to be nice. And so I didn't just want any old throw. I wanted it in this particular color. And the backstory of that is, husband bought me a pillowcase, which was this awful color of fuchsia. And my entire bed was beige until that time. But, so now I have this purple pillowcase. And I didn't want to make the rest of it fuchsia because I don't like that color particularly. But the only way I could tie it to get the brown in with the fuchsia was to have a very dark colored purple towelkette, right? And it's the same color towelkette, I think, that you might have behind you with your umbrella fabric over there.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted that color, and I looked everywhere for it, and they do not have it. It's not possible, doesn't exist, and I didn't want anything else. And so I was telling this to my lady Kato over in Kyoto, and she reminds me that kimono you can dye kimono to any color you want, right? I'm like, yep. What if we got a really nice quality towelkette and we try to do it, make it exactly the right shade you want? I'm like, let's do it. And so that's what I did. I bought this really great, it's an imabari towel, so it's made over in Japan. Very nice quality, very soft and poofy, and it was a pink one. And I sent it over to Kyoto, and so she sent me back all these little tags, swatches of color, and I chose my favorite color from all those purples in there. And she matched it so well. And it was funny because she kept on sending me all these little messages like, oh, I don't know if I can do it, and oh, the material, I've never dyed towel before, and maybe it won't hold the color, and maybe it will bleed, and this and that. She was sending me these messages. I must have had maybe 15 messages of her saying, I don't know if I can do this. And then she sends back the towel, and she's like, I don't know, I've washed it like 4 or 5 times, and there isn't any bleed anymore, but maybe it'll bleed in the future. And she's all panicky, but it is so perfect. I mean, the color, it's perfect. There is no bleeding. There's no running off all over my hands like she said there would be. It was amazing. So I'm kind of hoping in the future that this will be something more available, because instead of buying your standard pret-a-porter kind of mujirushi like bed covers, I mean, you have the option to make your house into absolutely anything you want it to be. So I thought it was a wonderful opportunity to use this very unique dento jutsu, this very this cultural, I think, a cultural skill, the dento jutsu, which otherwise would have only been applied to silk. So I don't know, I just love it. Just amazing for me.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
It worked out
I love
very
it.
well.
I love it too. I'm a big fan, and I'm sure you are as well, of indigo dye, of natural using persimmons to dye clothing. I would love to see more dye shops, pop up around Japan, and people can take things that have worn colors, or it's just not a color that fits their lifestyle, and get it newly dyed, and you can extend the life of the product, which is very sustainable and wonderful and beautiful, right?
Let me go back to kimonos again, but you go to any kimono shop and they will know a dye shop because that's part of it. So people will go in there to get their tea. If you get a tea ceremony kimono, it has to be one color. So you go in there and you say, I need a tea ceremony kimono. And then one of the nice things about them is that even after you use them, let's say you have a light pink one, that's what a lot of people do. They'll get a light pink one, 10 years go by, it gets kind of old and ratty looking because you're spilling tea all over it, and they dye it dark red. And then it gets a little bit, you get a little older, and then 10 years go by, and then you get it dark purple. So they intend to keep on re-dyeing these things so that you can sustain the life of the material. So
I love
anytime you
it.
want something dyed, go to a kimono shop. These are not just for buying big pretty soda. You can buy anything and do anything there. It's so cool.
I'm gonna go to my local kimono shop. You have inspired me.
Please
Let's
talk to me.
transition a little bit. We've got 9 minutes. I want to talk about wagashi. You had
Oh,
so many beautiful wagashi. This one I really love. It's supposed to look like a fallen yellow ginkgo leaf, which we see the beautiful ginkgo trees around right now, on a wet stone. I love the concept of it. Like, so simple, but so beautiful.
it was this wonderful thing. I got this over in I forgot I forgot where I got this, but I just walked into the wagashi shop because I was going to buy some dorayaki because my husband loves dorayaki. So I got these wonderful dorayaki and that I buy over there, and I just looked over there to see the different kind of namagashi they have. And every tea shop will have their own namagashi. They only make them there, but the concepts themselves they're free use concepts. So since you can see there's the ginkgo leaf, that's because it's this particular season. You will only get ginkgo leaves during this particular season. And so everyone uses the same motif, but they do it in their own way. And so this one is a mossy stone after rain with a wet ginkgo leaf on top of it. And that was just so remarkably beautiful. I mean, the inside was just wonderful. We had subu on the inside. It's delicious. But it really catches your eye. Each and every one of these things, they're very unique to the season. So beautiful.
Yeah, gorgeous. And I'm showing one of your pictures at a local shrine where you can see the beautiful ginkgo tree and all the ginkgo leaves in the water. So this is such a wonderful time to see this beautiful autumn view, and then to have it followed up in tea ceremony, or when you take a tea break and have the beautiful wagashi. And wagashi is almost always vegan, so anybody can eat it. And the wagashi shops are very traditional, small, usually family run shops that really need our support to keep going. So it's a wonderful thing to promote to visitors and residents alike.
It's really fun if you go. And what I like about Google Maps right now is that these days, if you live in Japan, you can just wherever you are, you can put in something like wagashi, right? You put in wagashi into the search bar in Google Maps, and they'll show you three or four little teensy weensy shops which are near your location. And so even where I live right now, there are three little tiny mom and pop shops which are around the nearby my house, which I could go for a walk. And I think there's a couple that I have to go by bike. But if I run out of wagashi right before somebody comes to visit, like, oh, then I can just run outside to go to this little tiny shop and get some things just perfectly for that. But yeah, tea ceremony. I mean, the one thing that I did mention this before, but it's all about appreciating the season and your surroundings that you're in now. So instead of thinking, oh, I wish I was over there in like in wherever not, and trying to, I don't know, I wish I was in Kyoto. Of course, I do wish I was in Kyoto, but I wish I was in Kyoto, and I wish I had this, and this. You learn to appreciate the things that you have at hand instead. So instead of imitating the way it should be in your mind, you imitate what you have at hand, you appreciate it, you use it so that it looks as beautiful as you can get. Um, yeah, that's the whole point of it. So that's why you have to appreciate the ginkgo leaf, the wet ginkgo leaf on the stone. I mean, that's something that's beautiful and should be appreciated for what it is, as small as it is, you know.
It's gorgeous. It's like mindfulness in your food. You know,
It's a good word for
not just mindfulness while you eat, but actually looking at it is kind of a practice of mindfulness. I love that.
it. Taking daily walks helps a lot. You're going to notice these tiny little things, little corners of, chipped concrete, the little flower coming out from the side of the road. Those things are important and they're delicate and they should be appreciated.
For sure. I also noticed that you've been making kimono pickles. Can you walk us through the process a little bit?
Oh, skimmer? Oh, goodness, I haven't been doing that yeah, well, I do that every day as a matter. Well, we have, that was what you do is, there's, let me think, terminology. But you have Nuka. If you go to any, you can get it at Old Jinja. You can get this at a grocery store. You can get this so many places. You can get Nuka. But Nuka is this mixture of it's soybeans, it's ground soybeans mixed in with all these other different spices and fermentation. You ferment it. They have kin inside of there as well too. The easiest thing for you to do if you want to start this is to go to a place and buy pre-made Nuka. You don't have to start from zero because that is kind of a complicated process. I did outline that once about a year ago on my Twitter. I made a little infographic about it. But you could just go buy Nuka and then you can kind of match it up to your lifestyle. But you can, inside of Nuka, you can put almost any vegetable and even some fruits, whatever you like. When you match the Nuka to your home, whatever, if you like it really salty or if you like it spicy or whatever it is, you can kind of adjust the flavor to it. But you leave the vegetables buried in the Nuka for as long as you particularly want. You can leave it there overnight. It'll get really, really salty. Or you could leave it there just for a couple hours, just to give it a real gentle tinge of salt. But the only thing that you have to be careful of with Nuka is that you have to mix it every day. So once you make a Nuka doko, which is what it's called, you have to go through there and mix it up with your hand every single day. And it should be done with your hand. So don't put on, make sure you don't have any cream on or anything like that. But put your hand in there and kind of mix it in there, get the air in there. Make sure there's it's not like flying all over the place or it's spattered anywhere because it will mold if you don't do that. So it's very important to go through that every day. You're going to get very nice skin as a result. So it's definitely worth doing it. But if you can one of these in your house, yeah, you can have any kind you want. And to people, if you really enjoy somebody else's Nuka, or if you go to their house and you're like, I really like these kimono, and they're like, oh, it's chikase, it's made at home, then you can ask them for a portion of their Nuka, and then you can mix that in with your own Nuka as well too, to kind of to spread the flavor in there. Very
Oh,
versatile.
it's almost like a sourdough starter or something, that kind of same concept, right? I
I've
found
never
the
done that before.
Yeah, I found the wagashi that looks like Christmas that you
Oh
had
yeah.
posted from that really cute little shop that you found. So it's the next season, Christmas season, you can also find traditional Japanese wagashi that has kind of a Christmas theme. I love that.
It's coming. It's coming pretty soon. Only another month, and those will be right there. Need to do Christmas shopping.
Yeah, my I hope my well, it doesn't matter, but I've bought beautiful masks for everyone. I found loads of different masks with Japanese themes at different shops around Japan. And so, along with other small gifts, I mean, sending things are really difficult right now
Oh yeah,
internationally because of the slow post and coronavirus problems.
yeah,
But definitely sending beautiful masks from Japan is such a nice choice this season, I think.
yeah. And they're inexpensive as well too. They're handmade and they're made by the locals, people with their own ideas and concepts. And I realize that the masks that they have, for example, in the United States, as opposed to other places, they're different than the ones that they have here. So they'll be appreciated abroad.
Yeah. And I of course, if you're in a very dangerous area, having one of those high quality N4 masks, or the ones that the medical officers use,
Oh
that's probably a good idea. But for the day-to-day use, the reusable, the cotton or the silk masks that you can find all over Japan is such a nice choice. And it seems like we have a really great variety here in Japan compared to other countries. So it's always a nice choice.
yeah.
Any other Christmas items you're looking at from Japan to send?
Oof. Not at the moment. I will though soon, because it's very seasonal, of course. And they do, yes, they do have. Some places will have some Christmas music playing right now, but they're all the things that I use in my daily life, like the tenugui, or like kimono, or like a wagashi. It's very seasonal. So as soon as I get into December, you're gonna see a lot of that all over the Twitter feed, probably Instagram too.
Yeah, wonderful. I look forward to it. And thank you so much once again for joining us and sharing your wonderful, deep insights about Japanese culture.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Maybe we can have you again next season in spring as we're coming into spring. You can tell us new kimono fashion and things that are changing in tea ceremony land.
That'll be fun.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And join us again tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow is another kimono theme. We have
Ooh.
Stasia Mitsumoto, who is a kimono stylist. And she's a photographer and kimono stylist in Tokyo. So we will continue the kimono theme into tomorrow. Thank you so much, Paprika Girl. Everybody have a good day. Take care of yourselves. Bye.